Welcome in, welcome in. It is the Mountaineer Postgame Show. I'm Schuyler Callihan. This episode is brought to you, as always, by West Virginia on SI. The Mountaineers finally get a win in Lawrence against the Kansas Jayhawks. 11 straight losses out there in the Phog. And Darren DeVries, in his first ever trip out there as the Mountaineer head coach, comes away with a 62-61 win. And before I give my thoughts on it, you know the drill here. We're going to go take a look here at some of the numbers in this game. Eduardo Andre, how about this? The story of the game. He fills in for Amani Hansberry at the center position. He goes 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 blocks. So just a complete all-around performance from him. Javon Small didn't have the same scoring punch, but boy, was he active. 13 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. Really created a ton of plays for his teammates in this game. Had a couple of big plays there at the end with a big rebound to get the ball back. And then also the free throw that would end up winning the game for West Virginia. Zeke Mayo led the way for the Jayhawks in scoring with 27 points. And the big difference in this game, of course, as you all know, we're going to talk about it, the free throws. 21 attempts for the Jayhawks, only 6 for West Virginia. And to me, this felt like another one of those games out in the Phog, right? You have the double-digit lead, and you see around the 6 to 8 minute mark, that lead starts to dwindle away. The fouls start to get racked up. All of a sudden, the calls that, or I guess the no calls that were there in the first half are now being whistled as fouls, and the whistles was just blowing like crazy left and right. And all of a sudden, you saw that lead shrink down to as much as 1. You saw it tie up, and then the Mountaineers just had enough in them to get to the finish line with the W. And it just felt like it was another one of those games where it was going to be the same story, just a different year, different team, different coach. You had the double-digit lead, and you thought that it was going to unravel like the last 11 trips out there have unraveled. And I got to give a ton of credit to this team for just the mental toughness that they had, the resiliency that they had, and even Javon Small. Like, look, a guy like him that's going to need to score probably 20 points or more on most nights for West Virginia. He didn't have that type of a game. He had a great impact on the game in several other areas and several other aspects, but the scoring was just not there. And the shots weren't there. But that's the big thing for Javon that I took from this game is he wasn't pressing. He wasn't forcing shots to go up because he thought he had to get to a certain number. He knew that he could help set his teammates up. He could make his impact or his mark on the game in other ways, and he did that. And even at the free throw line, he misses the first of the 2 shots at the end of the game with 1.8 seconds left. Could have easily kind of got a little tense there. Had too much pressure on him. He could have easily missed the second one. He drains the second shot to give them the lead and ultimately the win. Just an all around great effort. And I will say, there's been probably not much made about what actually transpired before this game outside of the injuries. There's probably some folks watching this that already know what I'm talking about, but West Virginia's plane was supposed to fly sometime in the evening, I believe, at like 4 or 5 o'clock is when they were supposed to depart for Kansas. They had some mechanical issues. They had to wait for another plane to get in, and they didn't get to Lawrence until in the wee early hours of the morning, probably like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. They get to the hotel, and then this morning, as they did say this on the ESPN broadcast, that the hotel did not have power this morning. So you go through all of that. You also have to go through the fact that you don't have Tucker DeVries, you don't have an Amani Hansberry, you still don't have Jaden Stone, and guess what? You still find a way to get a win. And just the absolute tip of the hat to Darren DeVries. I don't know that there's been a coach in football, basketball, baseball, any sport at WVU that's had a stronger resume through 12 games than Coach DeVries has. He has a win over number 3 Gonzaga, a win over then number 24 Arizona, and now a win over number 7 Kansas in a place that you never win. Not just you, nobody ever wins. Coming into today, Kansas had only lost 19 games under Bill Self in 22 years. Folks, they're not even losing a single game per season at home. That's how dominant they have been under Bill Self. You go in, You knock them off in the Big 12 opener. I think it was their first loss in a Big 12 opener in 30 some odd years. Just an unreal start to this tenure for Darren DeVries. If this is what he can do in 12 games, I mean, the ceiling is through. There is no ceiling. I don't even think you can't say, oh, this team's just going to be able to get to a Big 12 championship and maybe that's it, or maybe a Sweet 16 or Elite Eight, maybe a Final Four. I don't think there is a ceiling that you can't cap this potential that Darren DeVries has when this is what he's doing in 12 games with an undermanned roster. Forget the fact that they were down two of their starters today. They only play 7 to 8 guys anyways, even when the full boat's there. They don't have a deep roster. Harris Elezovich, he put in some quality minutes today. He's not going to put in, 10 points and 10 boards, but he did his job. And he's a guy that's probably the last guy off the bench right now. And that's what that Darren DeVries is working with. He doesn't have, the luxury of rolling out 9 or 10 guys like we've seen here in the past. That's not where this thing is to just yet. Give him a couple of recruiting cycles to get through, and I tell you what, Darren DeVries is going to have this program cooking. And I try not to make too much out of one game, but this isn't a one-game thing. This is a culmination of what we've seen over the first couple of months of this season, and it was really just the exclamation mark, the exclamation point. When you have that much go against you, you have those two guys in DeVries and Hansberry out of the lineup, and you still find a way to win in a place you've never won at, maybe not you particularly, but the program itself has never won at. I mean, just unreal. I'm at a loss for words. I'd like to go and dive into the X's and O's of this game, but to me, honestly, I don't even think it matters. You could throw that out the window because what actually happened, the result of the Mountaineers winning this game is more than anything that we can talk about in terms of what actually went on during the game. Outside of the free throws, of course. I mean, my goodness, how many more years is this going to continue where the Big 12 officiating crews continue to cater towards the Jayhawks? Again, this is not just because I'm covering West Virginia or I was covering this game, but I have seen countless games, whether it was against another Big 12 team or somebody out of conference, where Kansas was down double digits, and all of a sudden this whistle pops out of nowhere, and boom, just like that, it's a tie game where Kansas is in the lead and they find a way to pull it out. I don't understand. They have the best home whistle I've ever seen. There's 2 foul calls that I thought were just egregious. There was a lot that were really bad, but 2 that stood out. There was one about the 3:09 mark of the second half where I believe it was DeJuan Harris had the ball at the 3-point line, had a couple of guys around him, including one of his own guys, trying to set a screen. He kind of lost control of the ball. And somehow, just because there was a guy in his area, they called a foul on West Virginia. And then there was also the one at the end of the game that tied it up too, or at least gave them the opportunity to get the and one. That one should not have been a foul call either. So the fact that those 2 things happened, it is what it is, but they found a way to overcome it and get the win. So 62-61, West Virginia moves to 10-2. You got to think that they're probably going to be in that top 25 come next week, as long as they don't trip up on Saturday against Oklahoma State, which will be a game they should win, but you never know. Now the thing is, how do you handle success? You're 10-2. You're proving a lot of people wrong. Everyone's got all their attention on you now. The focus is on West Virginia, and not in the Big 12, but everyone knows that you're a legit team now. How do you handle that in the days ahead? We'll see when the Mountaineers take the floor on Saturday at the WVU Coliseum, taking on the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Tip-off set for 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I've got a lot to hit to over on the website side of these things, so apologize if I ran through this pretty quickly, but that's going to do it for us here today. Here on the Mountaineer Postgame Show, I'm Schuyler Callihan. Make sure you do us a favor, hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI, and give us a follow on X at SI_WVU. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great, happy New Year. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on Between the Years.